He killed them just after midnight. Then he sat down. He found the ice cream in the refrigerator and ate it straight from the containers. No spoon, no plate. He drank their barley tea. He sat at the family computer and browsed the internet. He may have slept on their sofa. He stayed for hours. And then, sometime before the sun came up on the last day of the year 2000, he walked out the front door of the house he had just destroyed and disappeared into the streets of Tokyo. He left behind his clothes, his fingerprints, his DNA, his shoes, his bag, the food in their toilet, unflushed. He left behind more physical evidence than almost any killer in the history of Japanese law enforcement. Over the next 25 years, more than 200,000 investigators would work this case. More than 5 million fingerprints would be checked. More than 1.3 million DNA comparisons would be run. His name has never been found. Before we talk about what he left behind, we need to talk about what he took. The Miyazawa family lived in a quiet two-story house in Kamisoshigaya, a residential neighborhood in Setagaya Ward on the western edge of Tokyo. Their home sat adjacent to a small public park. It was the kind of neighborhood where children played outside and grandmothers lived next door. Mikio Miyazawa was 44 years old. He worked for a British advertising firm. Yasuko, his wife, was 41, a homemaker, the gravitational center of the household. Their daughter Niina was 8. Their son Rei was 6 years old. Yasuko's mother, Haruko, lived in the house directly next door. She could reach her daughter's front door in seconds. This was a family embedded in the ordinary architecture of a safe life. Good schools. A grandmother within shouting distance. A park at the end of the garden. As Tokyo expanded and modernized around them, they had chosen to remain in their home, primarily out of concern for their children's well-being. December 30th, 2000, was the penultimate night of the year, and in Japan, the period between Christmas and New Year is one of the most sacred times in the cultural calendar. Families gather. Homes are cleaned and prepared. The old year is closed with care and the new one welcomed with intention. The Miyazawas would not see midnight. The last confirmed activity by any member of the family was at 10:38 p.m. when Mikio logged into a password-protected email account. 5 minutes later, investigators believe someone was already inside the house. Let me take you through what the evidence tells us happened. And I want to be precise here, because precision is what makes this case so unsettling. This is not speculation. This is what the physical evidence established, piece by piece, over 25 years of forensic reconstruction. Investigators believe the killer entered through the bathroom window on the second floor, a window at the rear of the house, adjacent to the park, accessible by climbing a fence. He came from the darkness of the park. He climbed. He went in through a bathroom window. They believe he moved first to Rei's bedroom. The 6-year-old boy, sleeping in the room directly next to the bathroom where the killer had just entered. Rei was strangled. He was the only member of the family killed that way. He almost certainly never woke up. Then, and this is the moment that defines everything that follows, Mikio heard something. A father's instinct. He got up. He went upstairs toward his son's room. He found the killer. And he fought him. A police report confirmed that part of the sashimi knife's blade, a knife the killer had brought with him, broke off inside Mikio's head. A father fought hard enough to break his killer's knife. The killer then attacked Yasuko and Niina with the broken knife, before taking a Santoka kitchen knife from the house to finish what he had started. Yasuko was stabbed so viciously that her bones were visible. I will not go further than that. This family deserves dignity. What matters for our story is what happened next. Because the killer was injured. Mikio had hurt him. There was blood, and it was not all the family's. And instead of running, he stayed. At 1:18 a.m., more than an hour after the murders, Mikio Miyazawa's computer connected to the internet. The killer was browsing the web. In the home of the family he had just killed, on the dead father's computer. He went to the kitchen. He ate 4 small containers of ice cream, straight from the containers, without a spoon. He drank several bottles of barley tea. Some reports indicate he may have taken a nap on the sofa. He scattered documents from the house into the bathtub. He may have been looking for something, or perhaps he was just spending time before leaving. He used the toilet. He did not flush. And then, at some point before the family's grandmother walked through the front door the next morning, he was gone. At 10:40 a.m. on December 31st, Yasuko's mother Haruko discovered the bodies. She had come over after being unable to reach her daughter by phone. She let herself in with her own key. The house she walked into had not been a home for hours. Tokyo's newspapers rang in the new year with a single headline: "A family of 4 murdered in Setagaya." Japan woke to the year 2001 in a state of collective disbelief. The investigation that followed would become, by almost any measure, the largest, most evidence-rich, and most confounding cold case in the history of Japanese law enforcement. And it is still not solved. When the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department arrived at the Miyazawa house on the morning of December 31st, what they found was extraordinary. Not the absence of evidence, but the opposite. Chief Takashi Tsuchida, who headed the initial investigation, described it this way: "Normally at the crime scene, you need to look carefully for tiny clues. You don't always know what you are looking for, but here it was everywhere. In all my years as an officer, I have never seen a case with more evidence. More than 12,500 pieces of evidence. Let that number sit for a moment. The killer had left behind his clothes. A blood-soaked baseball shirt, white with purple sleeves. One of only 130 sold anywhere in Japan. Police traced the shirt. They found 12 buyers. Dead end. He had left behind a jacket. In the pockets of that jacket, sand from the coast of the Miura Peninsula, pollen from pomegranate and zelkova plants, dead leaves, bird droppings, and soil particles that matched the area surrounding Seoul, South Korea. He had left behind a hip bag. Inside it, sand from a Japanese skate park and sand from a Nevada desert. He had left behind a handkerchief. On it, trace elements of Drakkar Noir, a French cologne, popular in the West, widely worn by young men in the 1990s. He had left behind his shoes, made in South Korea, branded by the British company Slazenger. He had left behind his fingerprints on the computer, on the ice cream containers, throughout the house. He had left behind his DNA, in his own blood, shed when Mikio fought back. Every single item pointed somewhere. Korea, Japan, Nevada, France, Britain, the Philippines, the Mediterranean. And none of it, not one piece, led to a name. In 2006, that DNA was subjected to advanced genome testing. The results were unexpected. Police discovered that the killer was male and possibly mixed race, probably not a Japanese citizen. His maternal DNA indicated a mother of European descent, possibly from a South European country near the Mediterranean or Adriatic Sea. His paternal DNA markers suggested East Asian ancestry. Think about what that means. This is a man whose very biology crosses continents, whose mother came from one world and whose father came from another, who wore French cologne and Korean shoes and carried Nevada sand in his pocket, who ate Japanese ice cream at 2 in the morning in the home of a family he had just destroyed. Investigators know his blood type. They know what he ate for dinner the night before the murders: sesame seeds and string beans, recovered from the unflushed toilet. They know the size of his waist, the brand of his gloves, the specific model of his shoes, the cologne on his handkerchief. As of 2025, police estimate he was at least in his 30s at the time of the murders, which means today he is likely somewhere between his 50s and 70s. He is probably alive. He has been alive this entire time. More than 200,000 officers have worked this case. More than 5 million fingerprints checked. More than 1.3 million DNA comparisons run. No match anywhere in the world. How is that possible? Former Chief Tsuchida has spoken about this directly. Japan's laws restrict the public release of DNA-based composite images. If we could generate a montage photo based on the DNA, perhaps someone in the neighborhood might recall having seen him and provide some useful clue, he said. If we can't generate a facial image based on the DNA, It might as well be as if we had no DNA at all. A country with a mountain of evidence, legally prevented from using the most powerful tool that evidence contains. And through all of it, the years, the comparisons, the hundreds of thousands of investigators, the legal campaigns, the reward money, the anniversaries, the documentaries. There is currently a 20 million yen reward for information leading to the killer's arrest. It has never been claimed. Not once. Here is the detail I have been building toward. Here is the thing about this case that, once you understand it, you cannot unfocus from. The killer did not run because he panicked. He did not stay because he was incapacitated. The toxicology from the scene tells us he had not taken drugs or alcohol. He was clear-headed. He was functional. He had just fought a grown man hard enough to break his own knife, and he had won. He stayed because he chose to. He ate their food. He used their computer. He sat in the home of 4 people he had just killed: a grandmother's daughter, a father who died fighting for his child, an 8-year-old girl, a 6-year-old boy asleep in his bed, and he was comfortable. And then, when he was ready, he left. He walked out of the front door of that house carrying almost nothing, having deliberately left behind his clothes, his shoes, his bag, his weapons, his DNA, his fingerprints, a biological record so detailed that investigators could reconstruct his ancestry across 2 continents. And he was never seen again. The evidence exists. The answers do not. That is not a failure of forensic science. That is something more troubling than that. It means that somewhere in this world, in a city, in a suburb, in a house not unlike the one in Kamiso Shigeya, there is a man in his 50s or 60s who has lived his entire adult life knowing what he did in the early hours of December 31st, 2000. He has had birthdays. He has watched the years turn. He has perhaps grown old beside people who have no idea what he is. And the family whose home he sat in, whose food he ate, whose lives he ended, they have never had justice. A 20 million yen reward sits unclaimed. The case remains open. The statute of limitations for murder in Japan no longer exists, changed in 2010, in part because of this case. If the killer confessed today, he could still be charged. There is no clock running out. There is only silence. 25 years ago, on the last night of the 20th century, a family went to sleep in their home in Tokyo. By the time the new year arrived, by the time the rest of Japan was watching fireworks and making resolutions and welcoming the future, they were gone. What this case leaves you with is not one question, but many, layered over each other like the evidence itself. Why that family? Why that house? Why that night? Was it random? A man who climbed a fence, saw an open window, and made a choice that ended 4 lives? Or was it deliberate? A man who came to that house with a purpose, a name, a reason the rest of us will never know? Why did he stay? What was he looking for when he scattered the documents into the bathtub? What did he find, or not find, on that computer at 1:18 in the morning? And why, with everything he left behind, the mountain of biological evidence, the branded clothing, the foreign sand, the distinctive cologne, has no one, in 25 years, recognized him? This incident is a barometer of public safety in Japan, former Chief Tsuchida has said. People find it terrifying that something like this could happen in such a secure neighborhood, in the safety of a family home. When people ask me, what became of that incident in Setagaya? I am at a loss for words. A chief of police, at a loss for words. After 25 years. If there is a lesson in this case, and I am not sure there is, because sometimes terrible things happen without lessons, it may be this. Evidence is not the same as answers. Investigation is not the same as justice. And the world is larger and stranger and more capable of swallowing a person whole than any of us want to believe when we lock our doors at night and tell ourselves we are safe. Mikio Miyazawa fought for his family with everything he had. He died on the stairs of his own home, trying to protect his children. Niina was 8 years old. Rei was 6. Yasuko was the kind of mother who made sure her children grew up in a safe neighborhood, close to their grandmother, in a house with a park next door. They deserved the new year that was hours away. They deserved all the years that came after it. Rest in peace, Mikio, Yasuko, Niina, and Rei Miyazawa. If you have any information about this case, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department Special Investigative Task Force can be contacted at So1-Sehawasyo-Suzahanbyu at Keishicho, Tokyo.jp. A 20 million yen reward remains available for information leading to the killer's arrest.